everybody's asking me where in the heck is Burkina Faso. It's just south of the Sahara Desert in West Africa. But before I begin, I just want to recognize how cool it is that today we get to gather here and celebrate God. I mean, that's what this whole night is about. Paul, at the end of Acts chapter 13, he comes home from his first missionary journey, and he just goes home and he parties with all the Christians and celebrates how great God is and all the wonderful things he did this summer. And so that's what I want to do tonight. And every single person here at one point or another has prayed or participated in the ministry of me and Haley. And every single person in this room right now has been an active participant in our ministries this summer. So the prayers and the support that all of you gave us this summer moved mountains. And today I'm really excited to show you what mountains we all moved together. So when I left for Burkina Faso in the spring, I really didn't know what God was showing me or why He was sending me to Africa. But I knew that He was directing me there, and I knew I had to go. And I'm so glad He did. I could never have imagined myself actually going to Africa. But being there, I got to see God working actively through the hands and feet of each and every one of His people there to see His purposes accomplished. From the very beginning of time, God's purpose through His creation is to make His name known. And He did that this summer. God has this deep, unexplainable love for each and every one of us that I just can't even conceptualize in my mind. And sometimes, living in the United States, sometimes the distractions of the life we live can really get in the way of a relationship with God. But I'm not trying to say that Africa is some dreamland that makes us immune to turning a blind eye to God, because that's not it at all. But when we really slow down and look and pay attention to who God is, He takes the time to sit down with us and meet us where we're at and show us who He is. And so this summer, I really got to feel God's presence in a different way that I've never felt before. And so I want to personally thank each and every one of you for supporting me on my trip. My time in Burkina felt like a call to witness the actions of God through His believers and through His church in a totally different country. And it was all powered by the ministry of prayer. And what I learned was that when you seek God's kingdom first, He takes care of the rest. There's nothing else that you have to worry about. So that was the theme of my entire trip. Every single day that I was there, He showed us that if you seek Him first, He is more than capable of providing everything else we need. So, without further ado, I'd like to walk you through the last 3 months that I spent in Burkina Faso. On the second slide here, we have my host family. This is John and Betty Arnold. They graciously took me into their house and gave me a guest bedroom and fed me every day and took care of me. They were like my family when I was over there. They are the Vision Site coordinators in Burkina Faso, and they work with the Engaged Church. And they allow me to participate in their ministries. And their ministries were the church building ministry and the handicap ministry, which many of you are familiar with from my emails. So I'd like to first talk about the Bush Church Building Ministry. The Bush Church Building Ministry was all about putting up these hangars in tribal villages that had pastors but had no churches. When you go into a tribal village that has a pastor and no church, the church is meeting under a tree. That's just the reality. And when it rains in Africa, it rains hard and the rain stays. And so these people are gathering under trees in the middle of sub-Saharan Africa with water all over the place, and they're gathering to worship God. And all we did was come in there and put up a few church buildings so that they could get out of the rain. What the ministry in Burkina does is they strive to come alongside these pastors who have just graduated college, are placed in a village, and don't have a whole lot. When a Burkina Faso pastor graduates from Bible college, They are placed in a village, they're given a plot of land, and they're basically told, start a congregation, grow some crops so that you can survive and build a house. And so while that's going on, they don't have a whole lot of time to build a church building. They're just trying every single day to survive. So what the Engage Burkina Church does and what the Envision site does in Burkina is they come into these villages, they build a well. Because most of these pastors, the land that they're giving is not good land. It's given on the outskirts of the town, so they have no way of communicating with the people who are inside these tribal villages. So the ministry comes in, builds a well, builds a church, and then all of a sudden, a few years later, they're right in the dead center of their village. Because everybody's got to come to get water. Everybody's got to come to them to get water, and then while they're getting water at the well, they have the opportunity to hear the gospel and see the church that's been built out back. The next few slides here, we have images of the church hangar being put up. You guys have the privilege of seeing the church hangar put up in about 1.5 minutes, whereas it took us about 2 days. So we'll just go ahead and cycle through the next couple slides. We put up steel I-beams to hold the roof on, put on A-frames, and then the next slide's going to scare my mom. OSHA would not approve of these things. We hauled in our scaffolding, climbed up on top of the A-frames, and went ahead and put the roof on. Yeah, there's not a whole lot of regulation for what a building should look like. Not a whole lot. But here's the finished product. And in my time in Burkina, I had the privilege of putting up 6 of these. So I was very fortunate. All right, so we'll continue on. The next slide actually is the finished church after the teams leave and everything. Villagers will often come in and they'll put up walls to make this look like a real building. So that right there you have is a finished Christian and Missionary Alliance Church in Burkina. So during my bush trips, I got to taste a little bit of what bush living is like. And here on the upper right, I wanted to talk about this first because it's the most outward for me. The upper right is the bucket bath. In Africa, when you are living out in the bush, you take bucket baths. There's no showers, there's no running water. You literally have a bucket, you go into this stall that's made of bricks, and you bathe. The walls for the men are usually only about up here. And the villages that I went into, for some reason, they put the bucket baths right next to the kitchen, so you got women cooking, jimmy vacuum on, about 10, 15 feet from where you're showering. It took a little getting used to. But, yeah, so that's the bucket bath. One of the benefits of living out in the bush was these cots. Sleeping on a cot doesn't really seem like the greatest thing, but sleeping under the African stars, on the other hand, is an amazing thing. There's no light pollution. You lay out under the stars, you can see all of them. There's shooting stars flying all over the place, and you can see the stripe of the Milky Way through the sky. It's quite a really, it's a pretty cool sight. But you also really don't have much choice because it's about 110 degrees out there, so you have to sleep out in the middle of an open field. If you wanted to sleep under a tree, you would be liable to have a guest fall from a tree in the form of a snake. There were some pretty dangerous snakes there that during the night did fall from trees. So anyways, you didn't want to be sleeping under a tree. Animals were everywhere, as you can see in the bottom left-hand corner here. There were lots of goats. But there were also pigs and donkeys and all kinds of stuff. And at night, they tended to do whatever they wanted. You were liable to be woken up by fighting dogs or donkeys wrestling around out in the field. We also had a team member who had a midnight visitor. It was a pig who came up and squealed right in his ear and he woke up screaming. He was a grown man and he woke up screaming to a pig, so whatever that tells you about him is up to you. There are also lots of children out in the bush. Children in Africa live a very rigorous lifestyle because they have to help their family, they have to work just to survive on a daily basis. So when we were there, they knew that they were getting a good meal, and they knew that they would be taken care of at least for a few days, so they could put off their responsibilities and come play with us. And so there was one team member. We had been at one of these evangelism nights, and that's what this picture's of, is one of the evangelism nights that we have after our day is done working on the church hangar, and I'll get to that in a second. But we had an evangelism night where the team handed out these, the glow stick things that you make necklaces out of, and so the kids were all over those. They had their necklaces on and everything, and this team member goes to sleep on his cot and wakes up not much more than 30 minutes after he was asleep, and there's about a dozen African kids standing over his cot just staring at him. So the kids really enjoyed the attention, plus many of them had never seen white people before. So that was a pretty interesting thing. So on the next slide, we have the Sector 30 ministry, the handicap ministry. What I thought was really cool about the handicap ministry is how much God worked in it. And every facet of the handicap ministry, you could see God working in. Handicapped people in Burkina live a very difficult life because they are dejected from society. They are truly the lost people in Burkina. God really has this heart for the unlovable. He has a heart for those who normal people couldn't love. And the Sector 30 ministry is the manifestation of how much God can love anybody. Because in Burkina, if you're handicapped, you're not allowed to go into most public restaurants. You're not allowed to go into most public places. You're not allowed to hold a normal job. And so these people were forced to beg on the street side to provide for their family, or they were forced to find whatever possible means of sustenance that they could. And they just lost a lot of dignity the way that they were living. So what this handicap ministry does is it provides wages, it provides meals, it sends their kids to school, it gives them these handicap bikes so that they're again mobile. They can do the things that they hadn't done before. So on the next slide here, you see this is the handicap farm in Sector 30. The handicap farm is run by the widows and the handicapped men. And so what happens is this in particular is the pig pen. The handicapped men will raise these pigs and they'll sell them once they're fully grown, and that's the proceeds that they get from the pigs go to fund the ministry. They go to pay the salaries of the workers. They go to send kids to school and pay for food for people who don't have any. And in Sector 30, the most impoverished area of Ouagadougou, that's a big deal. It's a big deal to be able to provide people with food. So on the next two slides here, you'll see the chicken coop, and on the slide following, you'll see the goat pen, where they raise these animals and go and sell them to pay wages for the workers. The next slide just says the words handicap restaurant. I don't actually have a picture of what the handicapped restaurant looks like now, because frankly it's basically two shacks. Like I said earlier, the handicapped men are not usually able to go to a public restaurant, so the Handicap Association built these two little shacks so that these handicapped men had a place to go and to feel normal, like they could participate in being at a restaurant. However, there's been some money sitting around in the Envision Fund to build a real restaurant, a restaurant that's worthy of being called a restaurant, or a restaurant with board, cement floor, a kitchen on site, something that's permanent for these people. However, the land that they had wanted to build on, there was a Muslim mayor who was in charge of providing land for for Sector 30, distributing land, and he had said he wouldn't distribute the land to them. When I arrived in May, there was an election for mayor. There was a Christian lady who already had said that she would give the land to the ministry, and she was running against the Muslim mayor who had said that he wouldn't give the land to the ministry. So there was a lot of people praying for this Christian lady to come in as the mayor and distribute the land to Sector 30 so that they could build this restaurant and provide for the people that they help. However, about a month after I arrived, we found out that the Muslim mayor, who had already said that he wasn't going to provide the land to Sector 30's ministry, he was elected. But the government of Burkina said that land distribution by the mayors was getting a little bit corrupt, so they decided to make another position and appoint someone to head up land distribution in Burkina. And the Christian lady who had wanted elected as mayor was chosen to head up this program. So while we were praying for this Christian lady to be elected mayor, had she been elected mayor, we never would have got the land. But because God had the foresight and had the knowledge to say, if I answer the prayers exactly like I want, they're not going to get the land. He knew that was coming, so he took care of it. He provided through not letting the Christian lady become mayor. The next slide is one of the most impactful ministries I've ever been a part of, which was handicap bike distribution. And also here you can see handicap bike repairs. When a handicap bike is in need of repair, these men are unable to go anywhere. Most of them have to crawl on the ground to get anywhere. One handicapped man said it like this: when you want to go get a drink, you go get a drink. When you want to bathe, you take your container, go get water, and you bathe. When I want to get a drink, I have to ask someone to go get water for me. Or when I want to bathe, I have to ask someone to go grab their container, go and get water, and bring it back so that I can bathe. But now with a bike, I can go get water whenever I want. I can go grab my container, put it on my bike, and go get water whenever I want to bathe. I can do all that now that I have a bike. Oftentimes these handicapped people have to crawl around on the ground to get anywhere. They can't look people in the eye. They're always looking up to you. And Africa is not a very clean place. There's dust and dirt and all this kind of stuff everywhere. So as they go about the day, their clothes get dirty, and it's just a very degrading lifestyle. And so when the handicap ministry starts handing out these bikes, these men no longer have to crawl around on the ground, and they can sit on their bikes and they can look you square in the eye, and it restores a lot of dignity to these men. On the backs of every bike, that is Acts 16:31, which says, "Believe in the Lord Jesus and you will be saved, you and your household." So even when these handicapped men leave the bike distribution, they're spreading the gospel wherever they go. And believe me, they're flying, they're taking off, and they're pedaling all over the place. We had this one man, every time we went into Sector 30, he felt it was his job to make sure that we got out safe, so he would lead a caravan with his little trike, waving at everybody as he passed, making sure that we made it out of the village just fine. There were kids everywhere in Sector 30. When we drove in on these vans, you drive through the winding streets of this part of Ouagadougou, which is the capital city. And these kids would come from out of nowhere. They'd see these white vans and they'd be chasing them and they'd be yelling, "Nasada, Nasada." And Nasada in Moray means white thing. So I don't know that I can really take that as a compliment or anything. But they saw these white vans and they were so excited, so they're chasing them and running all the way after us to the Sector 30 ministry. And by the time we got to the ministry, there was always 20, 30, or even 40 kids standing there waiting to greet us. On this next slide, you can see The teams who came in, they all loved it. They always had kids sitting on their lap right when you got in. You had kids beckoning to come and hop up on your lap, and you could have 3 kids in your lap, and there'd still be 7 more wanting to jump up on you. The next slide here, this was my favorite part. These kids had never seen a white child before. They didn't know that white people had children just like them, so they were trying to get the attention of this girl the entire time. So you can see on the right here the picture of these kids are ducking under the tarp just to try and get her attention. So over the next couple slides, I'd like to talk a little bit about what God did. I just talked about the different ministries that I was involved in and how they're seeking the kingdom of God first. And so here I'd like to talk about how God provided. Like I said earlier, Matthew 6:33-34 says, "But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Therefore do not be anxious for tomorrow will take care of itself. Each day has enough trouble on its own." As Tal put it, to be Fulani is to be Muslim. For a Fulani man to follow Jesus would be much worse than if I was, as a Jesus follower, to say I can no longer be American because I want to be Christian, I want to follow Jesus. It's much worse than that. These Fulani men face physical harm, and they face complete ostracism. They face complete ostracization from their family. They are completely isolated from the families if they commit to a life with Jesus. So Tal in particular was a Fulani man, and there was a missionary named Philip who needed a translator for his ministry. And Tal is fluent in 7 different languages, at least. Those are the 7 that I know of. So Tal worked with Philip on these trips, and during his time with Philip, Tal began reading the Bible. And as he read the Bible, he felt his life begin to change. He felt changed, and some of his family members began to notice. But when his immediate family recognized that he was reading the Bible, he was kicked out of his home. He had not yet given his life to Jesus, but he was kicked out of his home, and his family would no longer talk to him because he was reading the Bible. So shortly before I came to Burkina, Tal, still spending time with Philip, decided to give his life to Jesus. And he was, at the time he was living with a grandma and an uncle who had not signed him off. They hadn't stopped talking to him yet. And so when he went to tell his grandma, she told him 2 things. The first thing she said was, if you're going to be a Christian, just don't stop being my son. And the second thing was, I don't know this Jesus, but if Jesus is anything like Philip, then it's the right thing to do. Can you imagine? Can you even imagine what it's like to have that said about you? If Jesus is anything like Philip, then it's the right thing to do. And that's what it means to be Jesus to other people. That's what it means to really love people for who they are. So on the next slide, we have a lady named Miriam. Miriam was also a Fulani Christian, and she came to one of our bike distributions. When she arrived at the bike distribution, she told us she was a Fulani. She was a Fulani believer, and she was from a Fulani village that had other Christians in it. And so we were like, where in the world is this village? And she goes, oh, it's up north in Burkina. Oh, and guess what? There's 11 more villages up there, just like ours, that have Fulani Christians, but they don't have any churches. Now, in northern Burkina is what's called the no-travel zone. So it's not okay for Westerners to go up there because Al-Qaeda has such a presence there. So we couldn't travel up there to build any churches, but they're organizing a way to send people up there to build these churches and provide these people with a place to meet, to worship Jesus. After Miriam received her bike, her and her pastor returned to her village, and when the villagers came up to see and admire her brand new bike, the pastor was able to share the gospel, and 7 new Fulani came to Jesus. Yeah, pretty cool. On the next slide, I have to apologize because the Burkina Bay are they're such a happy people, but whenever you take out a camera, they just get this sullen look. It's like it's the worst thing in the world. And even if they ask and beg for their picture to be taken, they're going to look just like this guy. This is Henri. Henri lives on a plot of land right next to his pastor's land. And for 7 years, his pastor would come to him and talk to him about Jesus. And every time his pastor came to him, Henri said, no, I don't want anything to do with this Jesus guy. He made me a handicapped man, and I just don't want anything to do with him. Well, he came to this bike distribution, and Pastor Yusuf, who's the pastor of the handicap ministry, shared the gospel with Henri, and Henri accepted Jesus as his Lord and Savior on the spot. And so Henri was so excited about his newfound relationship with Jesus that he got on his bike and he said, I'm going to go home and tell my entire family that we have to believe in Jesus now. On the next slide we have Pastor Ailey. Now Pastor Ailey was pastoring a church for 7 years, and over the course of 7 years he didn't have a church building at all during this time, and he only had a congregation of 5 people. I can't even begin to imagine what it would be like to pastor in a place that's so resistant to the gospel that you only have 5 people in your entire village that believe what you're saying. I can't even imagine. So we came in and we put up a church for Pastor Ailey, and we had an evangelism night, and 2 more men came to Jesus in the process. We added 2 more to his 5. The second night of our evangelism service was rained out, but over 100 people heard the gospel. They heard about who Jesus is and what he means and how powerful he is to change lives. But the biggest impact for us being there was to put up this church building. Having a building there is a big deal. It means that this Jesus is there to stay, and it means that Pastor Ailey has brothers and sisters and family across the entire world who love and care about him and who are praying for him. So on this slide right here we have, on the left you have Pastor Ezekiel, and on the right in the New York Yankees cap with the red t-shirt you have Pastor Johnathan, and on the next slide we have right in the middle in the blue cap and gray t-shirt, that is Pastor Abdias. These 3 men traveled with us everywhere we went on all of our bush trips. They were the hardest workers on every single one of these teams. From sunset to sundown they were working. They helped us put up the church hangars, and then after they were done they would bathe, prepare a message, and then host an evangelism night. And so their days were 15 to 16 hour days of nonstop go, working the entire day. But the real sacrifice that these men made was to leave their families, leave their fields, leave their churches for several days out of each month, all summer, to come and to put up churches across the country. These pastors who pastor in these villages do not get paid for what they do. They do it because they're called. And so these men, just to put it in perspective how much they gave up, if one of these pastors did not have a good harvest, he and his family might not make it to the next year, till their next harvest. It's a serious thing. And so these men gave up valuable time in their fields to come and put up these churches. They trusted in God. They sought the kingdom of God first and trusted God to provide for them. And towards the end of the summer, on my last bush trip, they came to us raving about how high their crops had gotten. They had spent less time on their fields. And these are 3 pastors in 3 distinct villages, nowhere even close to each other. They had spent less time on their crops, and each of their crops had grown higher than all the other crops in their village. They had spent less time in their fields and more time seeking the kingdom of God. And God took care of them. God provided for them. So on the next slide, this again is the Sector 30 ministry, the last bike distribution that I participated in. We had over 25 people come to Jesus, come to saving knowledge of Jesus, and I lost count at 25. I tried to count them all, I lost count at 25. There's so many of them all clustered around. But there was one particular girl, she was walking by and she was selling a tray of guava. She was holding it on her head, and as she was walking, she heard the gospel being preached. So she stopped, listened to the proclamation of the gospel, and she accepted Jesus on the spot. She couldn't continue on selling her tray of guava until she had given her life to Jesus. She wasn't even supposed to be there. She was just walking by. And last but not least is Apo, who I wrote back many times about. I actually got word this morning, a little update on Apo's story. For those of you who don't know Apo, my second week in Burkina, the picture on the left is not him when he's starving. I'll get to that in a second. This is him out front of his chicken coop when he was well fed. When I arrived in Burkina on my second trip, we went to visit Apo in his chicken coop, and Pastor Yusuf called him out, and it was apparent that him and his grandma, who was also living in this chicken coop, because she had broken her hip and she couldn't take care of Apo, so she was trying to take care of him by staying with him in a chicken coop. And so when we got there, he crawled out and he was licking his skin because he didn't have any food. He hadn't been fed in weeks, and he hadn't had any water, so he was licking the salt out of his skin. And it was very, very difficult to watch. But the ministry made the call to move Apo to a new house. Betty, who I had stayed with, her dad had passed away, and some of his inheritance he had given to build Apo a new house. There you can see it on the right behind Betty and John. And so they moved Apo to his new house. The ministry had previously been providing Apo's family with a large meal once a day to try and feed him, but obviously he wasn't receiving those meals. His family was taking them for themselves. So Apo was in this house, and he was getting regular meals. And then about a month before I left, his extended family came in and said that they had a wedding for Apo and his grandmother to attend, which is culturally appropriate. So Pastor Yusuf, pastor of the handicap ministry, allowed them to go. And we just received word today that the extended family, one of them was what's called an imam, who's a high teacher in the Muslim faith. And so this imam was so embarrassed that the Christians were taking better care of Apo than his own family, that he went to the immediate family and demanded that they take back custody of Apo and his grandmother and begin caring for them the way that they should be. So Apo was brought back to his immediate family. Pastor Yusuf had been over there checking on them regularly to make sure that he's still getting fed. Because these are the same people who abandoned him and left him to die. So as hard as it was for me to read that, just because he's with a family who at least at one point didn't care for him near enough as they should. There's so many more just like Apo in Burkina, in Sector 30. And so my prayer is that as long as Apo is being cared for, that the next Apo is introduced to this handicap ministry as soon as possible. Because there's so many people over here in this poverty-stricken part of the world that need Jesus. They need to be provided for. They need people who love them and who care for them and who are going to take care of them. See, because people so often use suffering as the reason why there must not be a loving God. Why would an all-knowing, all-powerful, all-benevolent God allow there to be suffering? The truth is, as I saw in Burkina, God isn't responsible for suffering. He didn't cause suffering. We did. Mankind is responsible for suffering. We're the reason why people starve. We're the reason why people are oppressed. We're the reason why people are hunted, enslaved, and killed. We did this to ourselves, and the good news is there's something that we can do about it. God didn't leave us abandoned. He created us to work in cohabitation with one another. He created us to The ministry in Burkina is complete evidence of God providing for those who are unloved, uncared for, who don't have food, who don't have family, who don't have hope. See, God has chosen each one of us, you and me, to create change to reverse the damage that human beings are causing each other. And here's the thing, God doesn't keep this a secret. He shared that with us. He shared his massive calling for change with us over 2,000 years ago, when he himself stepped down from the paradise of heaven, became a lowly carpenter, and lived this same daily struggle that these people over in Burkina live every single day. The struggle for food, the struggle for water, the struggle for acceptance and love, the struggle for spiritual nourishment. He lived that. He experienced it. He knows what it's all about. And he knows how we can change it. Jesus, God incarnate, because of his infinite love, lived, was crucified, died, and rose again 3 days later, so that even though suffering still exists, we have the power to do something about it. Jesus died so that even though we do what is wrong, even though we hurt the people around us, even though we cause suffering and pain to ourselves, to the ones we love, to the people around us, we can make the choice to turn from our past and to choose to do what is truly good, what is right, and what is worthy of being called children of God. See, there's relief in Jesus. There's hope in Jesus. And this is real. This is all that matters. This means the difference between right and wrong. This is eternal. So the reality of our situation is, if Jesus isn't alive in his people, then his life means nothing. And this trip to Burkina doesn't mean anything either. Not without Jesus. But if Jesus is alive, as is shown by every single second of this trip to Burkina, then he means everything. If Jesus lives, there's not one thing in the entire world that matters more than your decision to allow Jesus to change the world through you. If you've not yet chosen Jesus to be the absolute meaning of your life, I beg you, do not take this decision lightly. What you choose will forever change your life. In John 14:6, Jesus says, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. Jesus is life. In early June, I was with a team in the village of Tora in Burkina Faso, and at night following all of our day's work on a hangar, the pastors had their evangelism service. They gave a gospel presentation, and they invited two women up to accept Jesus. And the pastor asked the first woman who came forward why she needed Jesus, and she said, I want peace. See, here's the big secret about being a believer in Jesus. In Jesus Christ, you have everything you need. There is nothing outside of God that cannot be provided for. Not a single one of your needs that cannot be completely taken care of by God. That woman at the evangelism service in Torah will never have to fear the lack of peace again, because she has the source of all peace. And the great thing is that he can make a home in all of ours too. See, if we seek the kingdom of God first, God will take care of everything else. So it doesn't matter what you've done in your past. It doesn't matter whether you're worthy or not. Jesus is the giver of all good things, and he wants to share his heart with you. If you have set it upon yourself, if you've determined in your heart that you're ready to make a commitment to Jesus tonight, to fulfill a purpose that is much bigger than you or anyone in this room can even imagine. Please see me, see Haley, see one of our pastors. Just see somebody who can bring you to a loving relationship with Jesus. Even if you've already accepted Jesus as the purpose of your life and would like to rededicate yourself to living a life with Jesus, come and pray with me. Together, tonight, let's seek the kingdom of God first. please, please, please don't leave here the same person that you came, that you were when you came. Today is a new day, and if today is the same as yesterday, then what's the point of it being a new day? If you and I weren't meant to change them, then there's absolutely no hope for tomorrow. See, because what I found out in Burkina is world change comes one life at a time, and tonight I'm so beyond ready to change the world. So, if you don't mind, Pastor, I'm going to go ahead and close this in prayer, and we have some refreshments coming up here too. But after the prayer, before refreshments, if you would like to make a commitment or recommit your life to Jesus, please come see someone tonight. Dear Heavenly Father, I just thank you for the opportunity it is to come here together as one heart and one body to celebrate who you are and what you've done with, in, and through us this summer. Father, the mountains that you moved are immense, and I couldn't even imagine you doing anything different. So Father, I just pray that you continue to be here with us tonight, to reveal yourself, to show the love that you placed in each and